All right, so our next session here is a interesting one that I'm kind of excited to do. Sperling, how are you? Good to see you. Unmute yourself. Mark, good to see you. Great to see you. And then Hat. Did we lose Hat or is Hat there?
I'm right here. I'm right
Oh,
here.
there you are. There you are.
There's Hat.
I just had a bad view on my screen. Nice. You look good. Thanks for joining.
Pleasure.
Johnny, you got our PowerPoint ready to
All
roll?
set. Want to zoom in?
All right. So here's what we're doing with this session. I meant to try to do this the last couple years at our summit. And I invited people like designers and architects to be a part of it. I wanted to do like a little brainstorming session, if you will, during our summit, just to kind of throw out some ideas. And I'm so glad I scheduled this after what we just went through with Fresh Strategies and TK Architects, because especially the TK Architects slides, they showed some great stuff, great pictures of projects they did and some renderings of stuff they haven't yet done that they're planning. And so I invited, instead of inviting architects and designers this year, I invited some of these guys that are on this panel with me, Sperling and Mark and Hat. And I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves real quick, and then we'll start our slide deck up so that we can walk through them. And again, we don't have a lot of time, scheduled for this, so if everything's gonna move real quick, but we're back on schedule time-wise. So why don't we start with you, Hat? Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what's going on in your world.
Sure. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Dine Cinema Summit Virtual Summit Edition 1, which is actually Edition 3 of the Summit series. Last year was my first year down in Austin, attending the event when it was sold to me by Mark Waldman at Show East. Wow, Show East. And he told me that it's a must-visit event purely because unlike other summits, and no offense to any of them, that this was a place that you actually can come away with actionable insights, and it definitely delivered on that promise last year. And I can see it's almost on track to do that this year. My name's Hat. It's an acronym for my initials. I promise you'd rather just know me as Hat. It's easier. And yeah, I run Influx. Influx is a company that's dedicated to the cinema industry in trying to bring in consumer-facing technology solutions that just make movie-going a better experience. And yeah, we worked with about 37 exhibitors across the world. We only entered the US market about 3 years ago. And yeah, we've been making decent inroads, and very, very happy to be a part of this panel.
Great, thanks, Hat. Sperling, you too. You go next.
Hello, I'm Jay Sperling Reich. I am the executive editor of Celluloid Junkie and a partner at Convergent, its sister consulting group. And like Hat, I am very honored to be here. And just for you, Matt, I wore my most plaid-iest plaid shirt, and I'm glad to see you're wearing a plaid shirt as well.
Yeah, thanks. That's good. We'll talk about that during happy hour.
That's actually a gingham check. Matt's wearing a gingham.
Oh, gingham. Okay, so I guess.
Nice. What's Mark wearing? Mark, you kind of look like me. What's going on? Tell them about yourself.
Well, that whole Midwestern thing. So I'm Mark Collins. I work for Harman International, which is JBL. We've been in the business forever, 75 years, and I've been with Harman for the last 2.5 years. My background is all cinema. I don't know anything else. I can't do anything else. I started out at 18 years old as a projectionist in a drive-in, and servicing movie theaters and working for an exhibitor for the last 15 years. And now I've got my chance to do sound for cinemas. So that's basically my history.
All right. Thanks again, you guys, for doing this. We're going to start with Mark. Your slides are first. I decided to do the order of us 3/4. I'm going to go last. If we have time, I'll go last. Otherwise, I'll skip myself. Based on how close you live to Green Bay, Wisconsin, for the Green Bay Packers. So, Mark, you're in Wisconsin. You get to go first. Johnny, you got the slides ready?
Yep.
All right. Go to the next slide. We need to, can you guys out there, there you go. There you go.
Hey, well,
Mark, hit it.
Yeah, we can start with this one. So what I really wanted to talk about is what we have been talking about all morning.
Wait a
which is-
second, wait a second, wait a second. I didn't finish my speech earlier. We're talking about some brainstorming ideas for the next generation auditorium, only auditorium. We're not talking about kitchens. We're not talking about lobbies. So I got these three guys to spend a couple hours or whatever they spent and put together some ideas in some slides, but they're going to talk over the slides mostly about some cool things, some cool ideas that just popped into their heads about the next generation auditorium that's coming down, what we think might be coming down the road. All right. Sorry, Mark. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Not a problem. So obviously, we're all very, very familiar with the DCI compliant projection system, and then the audio that goes along with it. The audio is in all theaters is tuned to a specific guideline called the X curve. And what we're looking for, and what part of the fantastic part of working for JBL is that this is not just a cinema company. This is a professional audio company that has many, many different products. And I've been able to literally have a kid in the candy store and be able to look at what can we put into our modern cinemas and our modern auditoriums. They're no longer going to be 100% Hollywood. Just we have to face that reality, which means that you'll be able to play other things, streaming, Blu-ray players, live events. All of these things will use a very basic HDMI, very similar to what you have in your home. And that type of equipment on a pro side is already in place so that you can be able to run DCI compliant at one point, and the next point to run streaming or run content from a different distribution company. So part of this is a multi-use theater. So just think about the concept of that you're running a movie. It has the normal X curve. It's designed exactly for what Hollywood studios want you to do. And then literally with a push of a button on a touch panel, your sound system can change to rock and roll or change for the Metropolitan Opera. These are the types of things that are going to really have to be looked at in auditoriums. And then the other things too is to be able to use your sound system for presentations, for churches, for business meetings, to be able to very easily switch from one format to another. So that's really what we're trying to come up with, is new ideas for these new auditoriums that really have to do more things than just Hollywood product. The other part of this, if you want to switch the slide, the other part of this is just basic audio anywhere in your building. There's so many different companies that have portable PA systems so that you may, if you don't have an exact type of system for one of the events that you're trying to do, investing in this type of equipment, portable equipment, now you can move that around from auditorium to auditorium. You can have sound systems designed for the venue you're working. If that is a stage show, if that is the disc jockey type of dance hall. I mean, there's many, many other things that you can do with that sound system. So I just wanted, that was my pitch, is to really start thinking about what else is going to be in those auditoriums, and the sound systems nowadays, you definitely can put in a sound system that can be switched very easily from cinema to any other venue.
Yeah, great. Thanks for leading us off like that, Mark. I do want to say real quick, thanks to JMR, Theater Toolkit, and GDC. You guys are our sponsors of this session. You can see your nice logo there in our little side window. I do want to say, Mark, real quick, that one thing that even in our most state-of-the-art theaters that we hosted our summit, 2 years in a row in a bunch of different theaters, right, around Austin. And it was amazing how at certain times, how challenging it was to plug in a laptop and show slides on the screen behind us. And we weren't doing like anything like this, right? We just wanted to show slides.
And that is the challenge that's out there, is the cinema equipment that we've purchased, the projectors and sound systems that we've purchased for years and years and years are for Hollywood DCI product.
Right.
And now we have to rethink that.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, even at one that I was at, we had a laptop plugged in, and and the person that was on site that was supposed to be helping us, I had to call the guy that I knew at that theater, that cinema chain, and say, what button do I push on this projector to get my laptop to show up on the screen in the right resolution? And he had to walk me through like 5 clicks on this projector. I'm standing up in the mezz with my laptop, right? And the person that was there was like learning with me, and that was his job, right? So I mean, it's not easy today, and it really shouldn't be easy today, because all that stuff should be automated, because they're just showing Hollywood film typically. Well, that's going away, right? Or that's not going away. That's being augmented with more non-Hollywood material. So awesome. Pat, go ahead.
And that was the point of what we're really working on.
Yeah, cool. All right, Hat, you're closer than Sperling to Green Bay, Wisconsin. You're up. Are you muted?
Quick shout out to Sperling and Mark. I don't know if you ever wanted to be a movie star. I know I've wanted to be one, and it looks like we're on a movie theater. Mike in the chat just mentioned that we're on his big cinema screen, so I'm loving it.
That's awesome.
Anyway, guys, Matt, you just alluded saying that, having this right after the previous session was perhaps a good idea. I actually think it's made our life a lot more difficult, because it's sort of, the pressure when you talk about next gen is you're expected to come up with these, oh my God, ideas, and, supposed to wow the audience. And then you have the fantastic people like Bill and John and the team at TK who sort of, I mean, it's fantastic, especially stuff that John said they thought of in 2006. I mean, wow. Anyway, if I could have my deck up just so I have something to follow.
It's up. You don't see it in that window? You might have to scroll to the right.
Oh, I see that. Okay, yes. So Bill, when he spoke, he briefly mentioned that how passive moviegoing is no longer relevant, right? Or rather, if you can just say passive moviegoing is passé. Now, when you talk to consumers and you ask them, how would they describe cinema? What makes them want to go to the cinema? The word that you typically tend to hear is escapism, right? That helps me escape my everyday life, escape my cabin, so on and so forth. Now, when you talk to people in the industry and you ask them what makes cinema special, we tend to hear the word immersion or being immersive, right, as an experience. So, but what makes it immersive? Sure, it's been the giant screen, right? But the first slide on my deck, which I think we went past, which was, I think it's strange that we still call our venues auditoriums, because if you look at the etymology of the word of auditorium, it refers to a place where you're going to hear something, right? Whereas moviegoing is far more than that. It's an incredible sensory experience, which is why I believe the future auditorium is a sensorium, right? And in that sensorium, I think it's important for us to focus on immersion, going just beyond the cinema screen. And I believe, despite past attempts by providers to work on 270-degree screens and things like that, I think we're going to see a renaissance of immersive moviegoing in the form of AR-inspired movie experiences. I think augmented reality can add another dimension that's not amusement park-like, if I may say so. It can add a great experience. I think it's been a huge win for exhibitors to be able to convince moviegoers to wear 3D glasses. I think that was not an easy task, but the fact that they were able to make them wear 3D glasses, I think it's now relevant to take that one step forward and get them to wear smart glasses that can act as a supplement to the AR that's accompanying the film. And that's only until JBL and Harman figure out a way to integrate AR projection as part of their projection. But until such time, you can have smart glasses that can have the X-ray function that you might have seen on Prime Video, where I can sort of see who the cast member is on screen, get some quick background information, various purposes that can be put in. I can even see what the status of my order is from my Call Connect API in my smart glass, and see where my burger exactly is in the kitchen. So I think it's important for us to focus on reinventing the concept of a moving picture and thinking of it as a living picture. Of course, a lot of this is going to be driven by the studios, or going to have to be driven by studios as far as studio content goes. But I definitely see sort of a push in that direction being inevitable. Moving on, next slide, please. And this is something, of course, that was spoken extensively in the previous session. Just waiting for my next slide.
Next one. There you go.
No, the one before this. Thanks for giving away my money slide, guys, but sure.
With the
The
one that
next
shows
slide.
is the sensorium.
Yeah, the one after this is moving pictures, living pictures, and the one after that should be seating to spaces.
Go for it. There
Yep,
you go.
this one. Yep.
Spaces.
So this, of course, has been spoken at length. So I'm going to just jump through it quickly. Paul Marco, in his comments in the chat, mentioned mini cinemas, and John Plumpton spoke about reusing of spaces. I think that's going to become hugely important. I think we're going to look towards point-of-sale systems to sort of augment the ability of smart architects and cinema operators to be able to provide dynamic configuration of venues that can move beyond just seats and treat them just as spaces that can be configured, whether it's for private cinema sale, whether it's for an event, whether it's for concert or DJ night, or as Mark said, a disc jockey night. You can plan it however you want. It's a venue for any kind of content. I think that's how I see spaces evolving. Next slide.
What is your next slide? Tell us what's supposed to be on.
The extras to extraordinary. I think it was the previous slide.
I think I had them out of order. It's my fault.
That's fine. Everything, besides what's on the screen is typically today treated as an extra, right? But I think it's important for us to start looking at them as extraordinary. How can we sort of elevate that experience as part of the sensorium, to the next level? So for example, if you walk by a mall, and you walk by an Abercrombie store, or you walk by a Bath and Body Works store, there's a particular fragrance that sort of becomes etched in your memory that reminds you of that particular venue. When I used to work with Martin Lindstrom, who's a neuromarketing guru, he taught us the importance of smell, especially in spaces where you least expect it, right? Where typically a smell in a public space is associated with something negative. But I think if you can spin that around, so for example, imagine in the middle of a movie at the appropriate time, if you can pipe in a fragrance of popcorn or of nachos or something relevant, and that can prompt a food ordering decision, thanks to systems like Venue Valet and this other company called Influx. I think they do something like that. It can really help spurn the extra revenue, but delivered in an extraordinary fashion. But then the next question that comes up is, well, that means I've got to have servers on demand who've got to be able to rush into the auditorium and deliver all of the food, right? Maybe not. Maybe we talk to our friends at TK and figure out a way to do what the B&H store in Manhattan. I don't know how many of you have been there to the B&H photo video store in Manhattan. They have this incredible conveyor system that operates as part of the building's architecture, where you place an order, you pin it, and then it just travels through the entire store visually where you can see it, and then you pick it up just as you leave the door. Think of a system by which a cinema has a conveyor system where the food's put onto it. You call for it using your Venue Valet call button, and then it pops through and it's ready to be delivered, and the whole thing can be heated. You pop a button on your mobile app powered by Influx, and then the system comes up and your food is there for you, right? But you may say, what about drinks, right? What about the fact that a conveyor system transporting drinks is a bad idea? Definitely don't recommend that. What I recommend is perhaps doing mini bars. Maybe you do mini bars as part of your seats. Your mini bars that people can just pull out. It has a sensor on it. You pull an item out like a hotel mini bar, and it charges your card that's on file, again, powered by Influx. And moving beyond some of these F&B items, I also think it would be fantastic to start seeing a second screen come up as part of our seats. A second screen where I can maybe pause, rewind, catch up, and so on and so forth, or even do whatever I was suggesting we do with smart glasses, but do it as a part of the second screen, without having to wear something clunky. So that could be another idea. And finally, the thing that I'm really excited about, I think America really needs diversity of content. As someone who's been in the country now for about only a year, I'm a baby in the country, but I think I've had the advantage of having seen the industry from across the world. The content that's on offer, where you typically have 5-6 languages of content available, that's definitely lacking here. And you have phenomenal content overseas that I think the American audiences would love. I think that's where we're going to see the thriving of what I call, actually what Mahesh, my colleague, calls Babelfish devices. Devices where you can have an app on your phone and then you can listen to the audio in the language of your choice. I know this company called Theater Years, my dear friend Dan Mungru out of Miami, who already does this for Spanish language films. But I definitely see more of that becoming more mainstream and would lead to a lot more content being available for people.
All right. Thanks, Hat. I like the idea of having choo-choo train sushi at the theater. You know, those places where they just put it on a conveyor belt and it drops it off at your seat. Cool. All right. Appreciate it. Sperling, you are in California. You are the furthest from Green Bay. It is now your turn to go.
If it helps, it's about the temperature of Green Bay here today. It's about 20 degrees outside. I have no idea why. I mean, it's global warming, and yet it's 20 degrees outside.
That's COVID's fault. All right, go ahead.
Well, so this task of only talking about the auditorium seemed very, very difficult, and so I thought, okay, how do we talk about the future? And I decided, let's talk about the near future. Once people start going back out again, there's this big fear. Well, everybody's gotten used to watching movies, Wonder Woman, at home. How do we bring them back to a movie theater? How do we try and coax them out of their house? They have to eat, so they're going to go to restaurants. If they have teenagers, they will escape the second that they can get out of the house. But how do we get them to at least come to a movie theater? So I wanted to talk a little bit about something that was originally, it's called Designing for Emotion. It was originally kind of a concept that was done with products. It was taken over by web design, but there is one company that has kind of excelled at this, at least for the past 70 years, and that is Disney. When you go to Disneyland and you walk down Main Street, you get a very specific feeling. When you walk into a casino, same thing. Speaking of walking into casinos, if you ever want to see the effect of scent, walk into the door of Caesar's Palace right by the Colosseum. For years, they pipe in some scent there, and it's been broken. But in any case,
a lot of money.
Yeah, and it's so strong in that one doorway, and everybody who walks through it, you can see their faces go, "Wow, what is that?" And it's because that little scent sensor is broken. But in any case, as you can see from the slide here, Designing for Emotion, even the font here is called Futura. It is a font that was designed
same font.
Yeah, specifically with the past, present, and future in mind. So if we go to the next slide, you're going to think, well, what the heck is he doing? Showing me, the outs. We're supposed to be talking about auditoriums. Museums are designed these days for emotion. And as you can see, a perfect example of that is the Guggenheim. When that facility was built by Frank Lloyd Webber and designed by Frank Lloyd Webber, they wanted to show what we're going to do is talk about current and modern art. And that design does not say, hey, let's talk about Baroque art. It says, let's talk about the future. If we go to the next slide, you can see.
Next slide.
So here, also, believe it or not, if I were to ask you what this building was, you might say an airport, you might say a hotel. Believe it or not, that building is the Notori Contemporary Art Museum in Brazil. Try finding a picture inside that building. It's not impossible, but there are very few. Why? Because people probably don't go in it, because people are too busy hanging out outside where there's a reflecting pool. It's outside Rio de Janeiro. The views are great, kind of like the Getty, where people, there's a $100 million painting by Van Gogh inside, and yet everybody spends their time outside. That building was created by Oscar Niemeyer to be, again, something that is meant to strike some kind of emotion when you look at it. If you look at the next slide, libraries also do the exact same thing. They are built to make an emotional impact. This building is the interior of the George Peabody Library in Baltimore. It is the research library for Johns Hopkins, and it is meant to basically say, hey, look, when you walk in here, first of all, be quiet. It's a research library. And secondly, it is meant to effectively make you feel like, hey, whatever's coming out of here, look at all these books. It's probably a well-researched report. And indeed, they're the Johns Hopkins, I want to say organization, but the institute that's telling the US how many COVID cases they have. The next slide, it looks like a rendering. And I tried to find a photo that would make it not look like a rendering, but every photo taken of this facility looks like an architectural rendering, but it is actually built. That is an actual photo inside another library, the Tianjin Binha Library in Tianjin, China. And as you can see, it's absolutely amazing. And every photo taken of the place looks surreal. I don't know what the books say inside. I don't know whether it's a good library. I don't care. It looks amazing. It makes me want to go there. And that's what I mean by designing for emotion. And you know what? As a matter of fact, let's stay in China for a moment. And the next slide. So there you go. That is a movie theater. And this presentation was meant for a big screen so that when you see it, you kind of go, wow. That is a color photo, believe it or not. But this one company, they are known as OnePlus Partnerships. They are based in Hong Kong. I'm going to show you a couple of auditoriums that they have designed, or at least cinemas. They are known for their cinemas in part and their retail spaces. I wish I could show you the lobby of this place. It looks like you're walking through Blade Runner. And every cinema they build has a theme. The theme for this cinema was science fiction. And the idea here is, would you not tell a friend or a family member after attending a film here, unless it was absolutely an awful experience, would you not tell them, hey, you've got to go to that cinema. You've got to go see that place. In the next slide, you can see in actual detail. This company, I don't know, this must be the owner of the company or something, but every single photo spread they do of a cinema, that guy is sitting in that seat in some, I don't know what it is, but that guy is everywhere. So that's just a detail of the same cinema. And if you go to the next slide, I think, okay, so here they did a cinema that was, the theme was film reels. And so this is just one of the auditoriums. You can see they're film reel type shapes, but they're really not film reels. And they did it as a way to detract from the fact that essentially you're sitting in a black box. So how do you make somebody have some kind of emotion when they walk into the room and don't just go, yeah, let's just go to our seats. And if you go to the next slide, you can see that emotion starts, that kind of that desire to pull that emotion all the way from the lobby. So this is I know we're not supposed to be talking about lobbies, but this is what some of the design elements in the lobby and near the concession stand. That whole idea of circles goes all the way through the entire cinema complex. If you go to the next slide, I think this is a very well-known cinema. It's gotten a lot of play. I had to actually research whether these were drawings, because I honestly thought that has got to be a drawing. That has got to be an artist rendering. That cannot be an actual cinema. But it is an actual cinema. It is known as the Meteor Cinema in Guangzhou, China, also by OnePlus Partnerships. And the whole idea was a meteor shower. That was their theme here. And as you can see, everything looks like it's popping out at you. So that IMAX, the lettering is actually coming out of the auditorium and presented dramatically to patrons showing up to watch a movie. That is the kind of emotion they were trying to get there. Same with House 2 or 4. Those are auditoriums 2 and 4. The next slide, I think, is inside just one of the auditoriums. And there's that guy again, by the way. You can see him walking away. I guess he didn't know the picture was being taken that time. But when you're sitting in that auditorium, it looks like you're in Star Wars and the stars are kind of flowing past you. I don't know why they didn't take a good picture of that. The next cinema, since we're in China, let's stick with China. So talking about the future and—
Hurry up, Sperling, hurry up.
I'm trying.
Hurry up.
So here we have a concept that started off about 5-6 years ago with 200 cinemas. Now there's over 12,000 of them in China. These are private cinemas. And every time I mention this to somebody, they go, oh God, that would be a great idea. You can rent out your own cinema and play your own movie. Now, I'm not going to talk about why there's a bed in one of these cinemas. So, and if you skip over the next slide,
yeah.
the next slide is, by the way, these private cinemas are beautiful. They make you want to go to them. If you skip over them, yeah. So here we have a couple cinemas that we mentioned last year at the Dine and Cinema Summit. Event cinemas. These are on George Street, I believe, in Sydney. This is called the Paparazzi Cinema. It only contains, I think, 40 seats. It's absolutely beautiful. The next slide is one called the Library, and as you can see, there's that person with the glasses in the back. It looks like a library. It looks like you're in a library. But on the roof are books that are spread open, and the entire ceiling of that kind of tiny box is made out of books. It's absolutely fascinating. And if you step back, you can see that the books are actually in a design. This was so popular and was sold out so often that Event Cinema said, you know what, we have to make more of these. So in Newmarket, and that's the next slide, they built another one, which is larger than, it was so popular they needed to actually create these boutique cinemas at a larger scale. So it's a boutique that's now large. I don't know how that works, but the whole idea again is to make people go, wow, I want to go back there. The next slide is the same thing. That's also in Newmarket. That's their second boutique cinema in the same complex. These complexes also have regular auditoriums. So they're kind of adjacent to, or an adjunct to what is an existing cinema facility. But the next slide, this is the Anything. And by the way, GDC is the sponsor of this. This cinema was built for GDC because it is an on-demand cinema. This particular auditorium has, I think, what is it? It's like 8 seats or something like it, 7 seats. You can see, I think, up to 8. They also have right next door one that has only 2 seats, and then one that has 3 or 4 seats. And it's on-demand cinema. You pick, it's like a jukebox of cinema. You pick the film you want to see, you book it, and you go with your friends. That's pretty much what the Anything Cinema in Amsterdam is all about. The next cinema is one that was taken over and then revised. How do we get people to go, I want to go out to the movies and see a movie that I could possibly see on my own screen and do it in a facility that is not the facility down the street, but one that might be a little further. And this is the Tivoli in Bath, England. Each one of these rows has its own ottoman. As you can see, there's ottomans there in the front row. And they even have, so that's that particular cinema, very tiny. I think it has like 60 seats. The next slide is their director's lounge, which you can rent out, and it's constantly rented out. You have to book well in advance. And that is that kind of concept. The idea is that you walk into the previous slide, when you walk in, you kind of go, oh, wow, this is nicer than my living room. Now, speaking of emotion, I had saved this final slide, which a lot of people have seen, this next slide. And that is, this is a concept that is actually currently being built. It is a vertical cinema. This happens to be the big screen that they are building, which if it looks familiar, you probably saw it last year. It is ripped off from Star Wars, the Senate scene in one of the first Star Wars prequels, where you have your own little balcony to watch a movie. They have other auditoriums where the round kind of pods there are bigger, and they seat like 20, 25 people, and they not just like 10, but it's almost like sports stadiums with suites. And that is currently being built as kind of a concept theater. It's called the Oma Cinema in Paris. I tried to keep it to auditoriums. That's the last slide.
You did good. Now we got time to make up, but it was worth the effort on my side to drag you guys into doing this. I hope you enjoyed participating in this way. My hope is that we can parlay this kind of conversation into some follow-up conversations that we have in the coming months with certain groups of people, because I think it's extremely valuable when people get together and brainstorm with the right ideas, along with people that are experts in certain areas that can potentially say why something's not going to work, in the hopes that we keep moving this industry forward, like other countries have ahead of us, from the looks of a lot of those auditoriums. But I know there's tons of people in this industry, like the 3 that are on this panel, that have a lot of history and a lot of creativity. And that's what's going to make us successful down the road. Thank you guys very much.